Welcome to BioXplaining. This is me, your biology educator Anushka, and I'm back again with the CBSE Class 10 Biology Practice through Diagram-based questions, Part 2. So what you're going to do is identify the parts labeled as 1, 2, 3, 4 and so on in each of the diagrams, and wherever applicable, you'll try to figure out what their role or function is. So that is how we are going to proceed. Just one thing before we start, this is the part 1 video. Don't forget to check it out. Okay, let's see. So what is this? First of all, this diagram shows the cross section of a leaf. Cross section of a leaf. Part 1 shows the lamina, which is also known as the leaf blade. Part 2 is the midrib. So the water and the minerals that are taken by the roots travel upwards in a plant via the xylem. So xylem has the role of transporting water and minerals upward. And आपका phloem का क्या function हो गया? Phloem has the role of transporting the prepared food from the leaves to the other parts. The xylem and phloem are together known as the vascular bundle. Right? So this midrib will basically be taking the water from the xylem into the leaf. Okay, and your lamina is that area, is the main area where photosynthesis takes place. Now, see this number 3 that's shown, the top part here. What is this? This is the cuticle. And what is the cuticle? The cuticle is a waxy coating that is present which prevents excessive loss of water via transpiration. Number 4, we have the upper epidermis. This is the layer of cells on the upper side, and I'll just skip to number 8. Number 8 is the same thing, that is, it is the lower epidermis. Okay. Then number 5 is labeling to this part. So what is this? Number 5 is the chloroplast. And we all know very well that why is the chloroplast important? The chloroplast is the place where photosynthesis takes place. Inside the chloroplast, what we see is that photosynthesis takes place. Okay. Then number 6 is the air spaces that are present in between the cells. Air spaces, number 6. And number 7 refers to the guard cells in this case. One thing understand guys, it's not given in your NCERT, but these layers in between, this rectangular cells, first of all, what are these? These are your palisade parenchyma. These are a type of parenchyma cells, palisade parenchyma. And this one, the next layer that you have, this is the spongy parenchyma. Okay, so I guess all the parts of the cross section of a leaf is clear to all of y'all. Okay, this is simple na, class 6-7 se padhte ho. So A shows open stomata, right? And your B diagram is showing closed stomata. So let's see what are the different parts. Now number 1 is showing your guard cells. Okay, so number 1, guard cells. So here also this one is guard cells. Then number 2 is the stomata, right? Stomata, or you can also call it to be the say stomatal pore, yeah, opening, whatever. And part 3 refers to the chloroplast. For additional info, these parts outside, these leafy cells, these are your epidermal cells. Okay. So functionally, what is the importance of stomata? Stomata will help in the diffusion of gases, or in simple words, instead of diffusion, I can say that this helps in the exchange of gases. Exchange of gases. That is, during photosynthesis, oxygen will be evolved, right? They'll take in CO2, give out O2, and during respiration, the opposite thing, O2 comes in and CO2 goes out. So the major function of stomata is in the exchange of gases. Function of chloroplast, you all know that it helps in the, or it is the site for photosynthesis. So I guess this is clear. Go ahead with the next diagram. This figure shows you nutrition in amoeba. Nutrition in amoeba. Okay, so number 1 is referring to or pointing out to this part in the center. So this is the nucleus of the amoeba. Number 2, this points out to the food particle. That is the food which the amoeba is about to engulf. Part 3, these are known as pseudopodia. What do we mean by pseudopodia? Pseudopodia refers to the false feet. That is, the amoeba will extend out the pseudopodia, their false feet like extensions, to go and capture the food particle. Then number 4 is what? Number 4 refers to the food vacuole. What is meant by the food vacuole? This food particle, this number 5 is again the food particle. The food particle is engulfed by the amoeba into the food vacuole. That is, inside the food vacuole, what happens is, if the food particle is like this in size, it will get broken down into small particles. Okay. And then ultimately what happens is, it is utilized by the amoeba, the smaller particles, and the unused part is brought to the cell surface and it is finally excreted out of the cell. I guess this is clear. Go ahead to the next one. Okay, what is this showing us? This is showing us the digestive system in humans. Digestive system in humans. Okay. Now what is number 1 showing? Number 1 is the buccal cavity. That is the mouth, the buccal cavity. 2 is in the front region. This is the tongue. 3 is the pipe that's coming out of the mouth. So this one is the esophagus, right? In simple words, you also call it to be the food pipe. What is its function? The esophagus undergoes peristalsis, peristaltic movements. That is, alternate contractions and relaxations of the muscles of the esophagus will happen, and as a result the food will keep moving downwards. So part 4 is your diaphragm. What is the function of the diaphragm? The diaphragm is the structure that separates the thoracic cavity from the abdominal cavity. Okay, thoracic, abdominal cavities are separated by the diaphragm. Then part 5 is referring to, yes, this small pouch, small bag like structure. So this one, part 5, is the gallbladder. What is the function of the gallbladder? The gallbladder is the place where bile is stored. So gallbladder has the function, it stores bile. Then part number 6 here on the right hand side. Part number 6 shows the stomach. What is the function of the stomach? The stomach will secrete different substances. What are the different substances? One thing it can secrete is concentrated hydrochloric acid. Then the stomach secretes some amount of mucus, and on the other hand it secretes enzymes such as pepsin and all. Okay, so the HCl makes the stomach acidic for food digestion. It activates inactive pepsinogen to pepsin. ठीक है ना? So pepsinogen is converted into pepsin via the action of this HCl, and the mucus protects the stomach wall from getting corroded by the HCl action. Done. So food digestion to some extent occurs in the stomach. Next, what do we have? Part 7. If you carefully note into part 7, see, it is the duct that is coming out from the gallbladder. So part 7 is the gallbladder's duct. Okay, gallbladder duct, and we call this to be the cystic duct. It will take the bile from the gallbladder to the further parts. Part number 7 done. Now, part 8 here on the right hand side, this is the small intestine. So, the small intestine has the job of carrying the digested food particles further so that lot of absorption occurs here. That is, most or almost full of the absorption of the digested food particles will be occurring in the small intestine. So, two roles. First role, it will finish digestion, and the second role is that while the digested elements or the digested particles are moving ahead in the small intestine, the absorption takes place. Okay, so small intestine, functionally we can write two things. That is, one is majority of digestion will take place and it gets completed there, and the second function is the absorption of the digested food materials. Part number 9. Part number 9 refers to the liver. Okay, part 9 is the liver. What is the function? The liver is the largest internal organ of our body. The function of the liver is to produce the bile. Part number 10, this leaf-like structure that you have. Leaf-like structure is the pancreas. Pancreas has very important roles. We call the pancreas to be the mixed gland. Why mixed gland? Because it has both exocrine and endocrine functions. Exocrine function is it will secrete the pancreatic juice, which will have pancreatic amylase, pancreatic lipase that will digest the food. And it also has endocrine functions. That is, a specific part, that is the islets of Langerhans, has alpha, beta, gamma cells. Alpha cells will give you glucagon hormone. Beta cells will give you insulin hormone. So when blood sugar goes high, insulin brings it down. When blood sugar goes low, glucagon helps to bring it up. Okay? So that is the role of the pancreas. Part number 11 is the large intestine, which is known as the colon. And part number 12 is the last part. This is the anus, the part via which the undigested food material goes out of the body. And part 13 here, this is the vermiform appendix. Okay, so I guess this is completely clear to all of y'all. Okay, so what is this showing us? This is showing us the respiratory system in humans. Respiratory system in humans. So part 1 is the nasal passage. What is the role of the nasal passage? The inhaled air, that is oxygen rich air, is taken in via the nasal passage. Part 2 that we have is the mouth cavity. So this mouth cavity is also known as the buccal cavity, right? Then part number 3 that we have refers to your trachea here. The trachea is also known as the windpipe. So it takes the inhaled air downwards into the lungs. Then what do we have? Then part number 4 that we have refers to these regions here. These are the rings of cartilage. So I'll just give you a very brief diagram here, rough sketch. See, this is the trachea. The rings of cartilage, they are incomplete C-shaped rings that are surrounding the trachea like this. So they support the trachea and prevent it from collapsing down. Part 5 is the pharynx. Pharynx is the region where there's both food and air. That is the common site. Both of them will pass through the pharynx. Part 6 is the larynx. The larynx is also known as the voice box because it consists of the vocal cords. And in case of males, due to testosterone, the voice box, is seen as protruding in the front part of the neck. That is when we can call it to be the Adam's apple. Okay. Then part number 7, what we have? Part 7 refers to the bronchi here. That is, the trachea comes down and at the level of the lungs, it will divide into two. Say this is the level of the lungs. At the level of the lung, it will divide into two parts. So those two bifurcations is known as the bronchi, sometimes also known as the primary bronchi. Part number 8 is the lungs here, right? And the lung, what is that called? This one is your left lung. And on the other side, you have the right lung. Part 9 that we have here, it refers to the ribs, the rib cages. In total, we have 12 pairs of ribs present in our body. Then part number 10 that we have here is the diaphragm. The role of the diaphragm is to separate the thoracic cavity from the abdominal cavity. And another function that it does is that it will basically change its shape during inhalation and exhalation. The diaphragm is a dome-shaped structure. It contracts and flattens down, thus increasing the volume of the thoracic cavity during inhalation. So air gushes in. During exhalation, it relaxes and goes back to the dome shape. So again, the volume decreases, right? Pressure increases inside the thoracic cavity. The air goes out through the nostrils. Fine. Part number 11 that we have refers to the bronchioles. Who are the bronchioles? These bronchus or bronchi will further branch out. So those branching are known as the bronchioles. And then you have the alveolar sac. That is right at the ending of the bronchioles. The bronchioles ka end, they end into this sac-like structures. These are very small structures, sac-like structures. Right? What is the function of these alveoli? These alveoli, they increase the surface area. What do? They will be increasing the surface area, and as a result it leads to much more efficient exchange of gases. Efficient gas exchange. Okay. Okay, I hope it is clear. So this one was the 14th number part, the alveoli, and this respiratory bronchioles, the 13th part that was marked. So we have just discussed, right, that the bronchioles are the fine branchings of the bronchi which will end into the alveoli. I guess it's clear. Go ahead with the next diagram. Okay, so this is the diagram of the human heart. Let us check one by one. Part 1 is the aorta, and for this be very careful about the functions. We'll talk about the functions of each one. What is the job of the aorta? The job of the aorta is it carries oxygenated blood from the left ventricle to all other body parts. Okay, so that is the job of the aorta. Part number 2 that we have, these are the pulmonary arteries. What is their function? Pulmonary artery, they will be carrying, pulmonary arteries carry deoxygenated blood. Be very careful, this is an artery carrying deoxygenated blood. From where to where? From the right ventricle, to the lungs. Okay, so part 2 done. Part number 3 that we have, this is the pulmonary veins. Again, be very careful that this part will be carrying oxygenated blood. It will get the oxygenated blood from the lungs and bring it back to the left atrium. Okay, right? So this is the left atrium, part number 4, where the oxygenated blood is entering via the pulmonary veins, right? Part number 5 that you have is the left ventricle, the below chamber. Then we have part 6. Part 6, you see, look into the arrow. See, the blood is entering from upper side. So this is the vena cava from upper body part. What is its role? It will be carrying deoxygenated blood from the upper parts of the body. So this vena cava is specifically known to be the superior vena cava. Superior or anterior vena cava. Okay, vena cava rather, sorry. Vena cava. Okay. Then part number 7 is the right atrium. The vena cava brings deoxygenated blood and puts it into the right atrium. Part 8, notice properly that this is the right atrium only, and part 8 is taking deoxygenated blood into the right atrium. So this is again the vena cava from the lower body. So this one is known as the inferior vena cava. This is the inferior vena cava. Okay. So this one will also be carrying deoxygenated blood from the lower parts of the body to the right atrium. Fine. Next we have part number 9, which is the right ventricle. So the right ventricle gets deoxygenated blood from the right atrium. And part number 10 that you can see here is the septum, that is the dividing wall which separates the left side of the heart from the right side of the heart. Okay. Additional info that we will remember in this case is that about the tricuspid and bicuspid valve, that is in between the right atrium and the right ventricle, and also in between the left atrium and the left ventricle, you have two cuspid valves. Okay, left atrium, left ventricle, in between that you have the bicuspid valve, bicuspid or mitral valve, and in between this one, that is the right atrium, right ventricle, you have the tricuspid valve. Okay, I guess it is absolutely understandable for you all. Let us go to the next diagram. This is showing the double circulation in human beings. That means blood flows in the heart twice to complete the circulation. Part number 1, pulmonary artery to the lungs. So carefully note, if this is the heart, then this is the right auricle, below is the right ventricle, then this one is the left auricle, and this is the left ventricle. The blood vessel that goes out from the right ventricle, as you can see in this arrow, going out from the right ventricle is the pulmonary artery, and it is going to the lungs. So this part number 2 is the lung capillaries, where we will see oxygenation of blood. That is, the deoxygenated blood will be converted into oxygenated blood. Part number 3 is the pulmonary vein from the lungs. That is, they will be carrying the oxygenated blood. They will be carrying oxygenated blood from the lungs to the left auricle. Then let's see part number 4. We have vena cava from the body. So vena cava carries the deoxygenated blood from all the body parts. It has 3 different tributaries, that is superior vena cava, inferior vena cava, 2 parts. Right, it will take the deoxygenated blood to the right auricle. Part number 5 that we have capillaries in body parts apart from the lungs. That is, this refers to all other body organs other than the lungs where the oxygenated blood has been taken to. And part number 6 we have, that is aorta to the body. So carefully note, it is coming out from the left ventricle. So this one, aorta, carries oxygenated blood from the left ventricle to the body parts other than the lungs, obviously. Okay, so I guess this one is also clear. Go ahead with the next one. The figure that we are looking at is the excretory system in humans, or specifically you can also call it to be the urinary system in humans. Part number 1 is the left renal artery. I hope this much is clear to everyone, that this side is the left part and this side is the right part. Why? Because whatever you see in the figure is your body, right? So you will see a mirror image as you draw. So this is left and this is right. So left renal artery. What is the function? The left renal artery will be carrying oxygenated blood to the kidney. Okay, so just in the previous diagram we have seen that your aorta was taking oxygenated blood from the heart to all other parts. So aorta basically branches off into different parts, out of which one is the renal artery. Then number 2, this is the left kidney, the bean-shaped structure as you can see. Number 3 is the left renal vein. The job of the left renal vein is it will be carrying deoxygenated blood out of the kidneys. Deoxygenated blood out of the kidneys, and it will be ultimately going and joining the vena cava, specifically the inferior vena cava, and then it will get back to the heart. Part 4 is the aorta, right? So see very carefully, the aorta only has branched off into the renal artery. Part number 5 is the left ureter. So this is the part which is coming out of the kidney and entering into the bladder. So the ureter has the job of carrying the urine from the kidneys to the bladder, right? Part 6 is the vena cava, right? The renal vein will go and join the vena cava. Part number 7 is the urinary bladder. So this is a sac-like structure which will store the urine. Sac-like structure, it stores urine. And last what you have the urethra. So this urethra contains circular muscles, So these circular muscles are known as the urinary sphincter muscles, or in simple words, urinary sphincters. So when these urinary sphincters will open, the urine comes out from the urethra to outside the body. And this event is what we call to be micturition, or in simple day-to-day language, we call it to be urination. So the parts and functions of the excretory system is clear. Figure number 19 shows the nephron, shows a nephron. What is a nephron? A nephron is basically a kidney tubule, and we call this to be the structural and functional unit of the kidney. Let us start. Part number 1 is a branch of the renal artery which is going to enter into the nephron. So this is known as the afferent arteriole. Afferent arteriole. Part number 2 is the Bowman's capsule. So this Bowman's capsule is basically, see the cup-like structure that you have. This is the Bowman's capsule, the cup-like structure that you have. Part number 3 is the glomerulus. What is the glomerulus? It is a tuft of capillaries. This afferent arteriole only will further branch down into a tuft of capillaries that is called the glomerulus. What is the function? At the glomerulus, this liquid part of the blood will get filtered out into the Bowman's capsule. Due to high pressure, there will be the filtration of the liquid part of the blood from the glomerulus to the Bowman's capsule. So this activity or process is known as ultrafiltration. Fourth part that you have is the tubular part of the nephron. So this tubular part of the nephron is further divided into 3 regions. What are the 3 regions? First region we call to be the proximal convoluted tubule. In the proximal convoluted tubule, that is abbreviated as PCT, there is reabsorption of the useful substances that are present in this fluid. The glomerular filtrate that comes out after ultrafiltration, from there selective reabsorption happens. That is, the body does not want to basically give out all of water or useful substances like glucose and all. So it selectively reabsorbs those things back into the tubule. The next part is known as the loop of Henle. This loop of Henle part also does some part of this selective reabsorption. And the next part that we have is another convoluted part, that is the distal convoluted tubule. So here some amount of reabsorption happens and a process that is called tubular secretion, say K+ ion, penicillin, antibiotics, they will be released from the tubules into the filtrate. So tubular secretion. Right? Part number 5 that we have is the collecting duct. What does the collecting duct do ultimately? Collecting duct, it collects the urine and then transports it to the ureter. Transports it to the ureter. Finally, it will send it to the ureter. The ureter will take it to the urinary bladder. Part number 6, we have the capillaries here, and part number 7 is a branch of the renal vein. So there is basically a counter current mechanism that exists in between this branch of the renal vein and your kidney tubules. So overall, this is the structure where urine formation takes place. Chalo, the final figure for this video. This shows the male reproductive system in humans. Let me just write that down. Male reproductive system in humans. Okay. Part number 1 is the ureter. You have just seen. It carries the urine from the kidney to the urinary bladder. Okay, then part number 2 here refers to the seminal vesicle. What is the seminal vesicle? It is an accessory duct. It is a paired accessory duct that is going to release seminal plasma or seminal fluid. Releases seminal plasma or fluid. ठीक है. Then part number 3 you have is the bladder. What bladder is this? This is the urinary bladder. This is part number 3. Then part number 4 is the prostate gland. This prostate gland is again another accessory gland. It is also a paired gland that is present. Part number 5 is the penis. The penis refers to the copulatory organ in males. That is, it helps in insemination, the release of the seminal fluid, the semen, that is sperms and seminal fluid together into the female tract. Part number 6 that you have is the urethra. So this urethra is a common passage for urine as well as your semen. Common passage for urine and semen. Okay. Part number 7 here refers to the testis. So the testis, this is the primary reproductive structure, right? The primary reproductive organ in the male body. What is its job? What does it produce? 2 jobs. The first job is it is going to produce sperms, and the second job is it is going to produce the male hormone, that is testosterone. Okay. And part 8 shows the scrotum. The scrotum is the sac-like structure where the testis is present. Sac-like structure containing the testis. So why is the testis present outside the abdomen, inside the scrotum? Because for sperm formation, that is spermatogenesis, the temperature required is 2 to 3 degrees centigrade lower than your body temperature. So that is why the testes are not present inside the body, inside the abdomen. They are present outside in a sac-like structure called the scrotum. Okay, so then from the testis you will see that a duct is coming out, part number 9, which is the vas deferens. We call this to be the sperm duct. Okay, what does the sperm duct do? It will be carries the sperms from the testis to the urethra. Okay. I hope this one is clear. The male reproductive system structure is clear. Well, so that's it for this video. Stay tuned for our next video. And if you think this has been useful, then please like, comment, share and subscribe to our channel BioXplaining by Anushka. Also, don't forget to click on the bell icon so that you get notifications whenever we come up with new videos. Thank you. Bye-bye.